Welcome to another Atchman Kings of War Battle Report, the Epic Quest. Game number 9, the Hobbit Hellfighters versus the Forces of Tree Filth. 2,300 points, and the scenario was kill. If you saw my battle report last week, you'll recognize a lot of the same models, and the reason why is it's really cool about some of these lists is that you can use the same models in them to expand. And last week I had my Sylvankin army out there, and this week I decided, well, since they're already out, I'll go ahead and play with the models again. So it's going to start out with almost the same thing as it did last week. 2 regiments of Hunters of the Wild, one with the Brew of Strength. This time, 2 regiments of Forest Shamblers with the Mead of Madness and with the Sanguinary Scripture. A horde of Forest Shamblers with the Brew of Sharpness. A horde of Air Elementals with the Hammer of Measured Force. A regiment of Water Elementals. A beast with the Wings and Swings update. And then a Hydra, the Wilt Father. A unicorn with wings, lightning bolt, and boomstick. And then Kinsey and Kapaka, which are 2 of the unique special characters for the Forces of Nature. I just threw them in there because I thought they were kind of cool. So this week we improved Carl's list by taking it up to 2,300 points. And it is now known as the Hobbit Hellfighters. So anyway, it starts off with a horde of Braves with the Relentless. A horde of Spear Spikes with the Hammer of Measured Force. A horde of Stalwarts with the Scrying Gem and Relentless. A regiment of Poachers. A regiment of Juggers with Caterpillar and Relentless. A regiment of Wild Lancers with Drunken Ram and Relentless. A horde of Forest Trolls with a Diadem of Dragonkind. And I'm going to tell you, I made a mistake. I was working on this list, and I meant to kick on Brew of Sharpness for them because that's the only way I take trolls. I can't stand hitting on 4. So I was helping out with the list, and I think I just clicked on the wrong thing. A unit of Wild Runners with the Black Powder upgrade. 2 troops of EJ Grenadiers, and I believe they both had Relentless. A Howitzer, an Iron Beast with the Pride of the Shires. A Sorcerer, a Sergeant with a bow, and a Banner of Hodenberg, which is a really cool banner, actually. And then to kind of fill out the points and to add some oomph to the list, I think it's Aaron Codwalder, which I thought was a kind of a cool special character, and kind of goes against the nature characters that I had in my list. This is my Forces of Nature army, and I actually was going to use some of my rats as the critters, but I decided that looked too stupid, and I went ahead and put in a troop of Water Elementals instead, so they're not actually in the list. But the reason I wanted to show this picture is not because I'm proud of my paint job, but to the middle there are those 2 troops of Forest Shamblers, and those are made by TT Combat, and they are really cool models and reasonably priced. I think you work out to like $5 a piece when I ordered them. So I just wanted to show off those models. I kind of like them. The Air Elementals that are down here in the front, Sean printed those up for me, so that's nice. And the rest of the stuff is from my Wood Elf army back in the day. So here's my deployment. I absolutely knew that my left flank was going to get caved in at some point. But what I did to stop that was I put a Beast of Nature over here. You can't see him, he's out of the picture. The unicorn that's out of the picture, and then the Air Elemental. So I had a lot of speed sitting there. Went ahead and put since I needed to anchor the flank after they fought through that, I put the Wilt Father over there to kind of handle it by himself. The next unit with a little tree sticking out of it is my horde of Forest Shamblers. And then the 2 white-licking things are actually clear. These are Water Elementals. And then behind them was the first regiment of Forest Shamblers. Both units of Hunters of the Wild are next thing over. And then the very last thing is the last troop of Forest Shamblers, and behind them all, I put because I knew all that stuff was going to scout, I went ahead and put the Hydra behind that, and I believe that the Kapaka was over there with all the Hunters of the Wild. I probably should have had him over here, but I remembered that that it only works on Verdant, so it'd be stupid to put him over here with all the Elementals, and so then the other hero is here, and I think he's hiding near the Tree Man. Yeah, here on the extreme left, I had my Beast of Nature and my Unicorn, and I used I have a model for that, but it doesn't look all that pretty, and because it's really white-winged, so it doesn't really match the rest of the army. So I went ahead and just grabbed my old Great Eagle out, and that's going to be my unicorn for this particular battle, and I'll probably get another one painted up that's a little closer to matching the rest of the army. That model there, I have no idea how I made it, because I know that the two wings off of it are something from an old first edition GW Wyvern, which were like the size of gnats. And then I have no idea where the body came from. But I've used it as a generic beast, flying beast, for years, and it's just kind of a, not because I'm proud of it, just because it's become traditional. So this is the Halfling left flank, and it's opposing most of my scouting forces, so they could be in trouble. The newly painted EG Grenadiers there, that's a troop of them, and then the they're called shooters, but I don't remember what they're called. But they have the black powder weapons, and then that's the stalwarts horde right there. And finally, over next to the stalwarts is a mortar, which is basically an old Empire mortar for or a howitzer in this case for the Halflings. So in the middle of the Halfling line, we had the Juggers and the Wild Lancers. Behind those is a horde of Braves, and off to their right are the Forest Trolls, which is obviously the perfect place to put them, which is in the forest. So this is the Halfling right flank starting at the Forest Trolls you see deployed in the woods. Right next to them are Spear Spites, and they have the Hammer of Measured Force, which I put in the list in case they were in running into some heavily armored things, in which, when you're running Forest of Nature, there's a lot of heavily armored things. And so I thought that would be helpful. Then the Iron Beast with his upgrade with an aura, and then the Sorcerer, and then a regiment of Poachers, and then finally the last troop of EJ Grenadiers to threaten my flanks. Carl is very, very close to finishing his army. All he really has to paint are the trolls, and I think he has said he wanted to do some touch-ups on some of the other things, but right now my river trolls work just fine for his forest trolls, except they don't match. I mean, that's the problem. But anyway, I think the army is looking great, and I can't wait to play it again. But it does literally go from one side of the table to the other. There are no weak spots in this one. I did not take a picture of my scout move, but you can see the result here. The both units of Hunters of the Wild moved forward, and then the Forest Shambler regiment moved forward as well. And what's really strange about it is I don't really understand why Hunters of the Wild have move 5 and everything else in the army is 6. So it's kind of strange. But anyway, his EJ Grenadiers moved around around my flank to threaten me there. To me, they're not that enough of a threat to really worry too much about, especially when I can shamble and I'd be able to turn and be able to get into those guys. Up on the hill, his unit, and I can never remember what those guys are. The guys, they have black powder weapons. They moved up to shoot. And then the Stalwarts moved up, which is basically his strongest combat unit as far as infantry is concerned. They moved up there and stayed alongside those guys. So in my estimation, I wouldn't have moved. I would have moved back instead of front. With me with so much scouting stuff, I was going to be on him in one turn. And as a person who's played against scouts and played with them now a few times, they are a double-edged sword. They can get you into so much trouble because you move out and you piecemeal attack with them. And that's why I try to have a whole flank that is scouting, so they all can stay together and protect each other. So yes, on turn 1, before I even moved, Carl was charging with his Juggers into the Wiltfather, and I thought that was not a good move. But at least he had this time. Last game we did it, he didn't have Potion of the Caterpillar on the Juggers, and so this game he does. And so that's at least it won't be as grievous as it was the last time. He moved up the Lancers to support, which I don't know. I mean, I didn't really like the move. Everything else just kind of moved up along with him and to support. And the mortar, of course, is going to shoot here in a second. Remember what I said about the left flank? I knew I was going to be in trouble on the left flank. That's why my flyers are going to come in here and rescue me in just a second. I really thought Carl shouldn't have moved his EJ Grenadiers with my flyers. I think he should have moved up to threaten them, at least to try to pull them away. His archers moved up on the hill to shoot, and the everything else just kind of moved forward. The trolls was the most thought-provoking unit that are over on that flank, and the Iron Beast. So those two have to be addressed at some point. I'm really sorry that I screwed up the trolls' weaponry, because I never take trolls without proof sharpness, and I don't think anybody should take trolls without proof sharpness. So if you're going to take trolls, and I screwed that up, but they did do some shooting with the diadem. Well, the battle looks cool anyway. You can see my air elementals in reserve and the Hydra. And the reason they're in reserve is because they haven't had a chance to even move yet. So that's kind of funny. Yeah, here you can see a close-up of the Juggers want to party with the Wilt Father, which I just want to tell you is never a good idea. Because when the Wilt Father comes to party, he comes to party. And here you can see my very violent and lethal response. Since the air elementals hadn't got to fight yet, because they haven't got to move yet, they went ahead and charged in to support the Wilt Father. The Wilt Father did take 5 from the Juggers, but I think the Juggers are in big trouble. And then the 4 Shamblers, the regiment charges the Wild Lancers in the flank, and the Horde charges them in the front. The Horde has proof sharpness. That's not going to be good for them. And then in the middle, I sent both units of Hunters of the Wild into his stalwarts, because I knew they weren't just going to roll over and die. And then everything else is moving forward. Hopefully I have another picture. So Carl probably shouldn't have moved his Wild Runners at all, because he moved them in the range of the 12-inch charge of the Shamblers regiment. And, of course, they're going to go in there, and those guys are really squishy. Kapaka moves up to support the troops with his Inspire, and then the Hydra moves up as well in support, because, of course, he couldn't scout, so now he's on the first row. But, he does have Pathfinder, so that lets him just zip right through those woods like it's nothing. The Water Elementals, yes, I know they look like garbage, but that's what I have. And they're going to move up, and I think Sean has either given me some or printed me some, and I still got to look for them. So, anyway, they're moving up there to support as well. So, it's going to be a lethal turn for the forces. So what's happening over here on my left flank? Well, the Unicorn moves up and fires a lightning bolt at the trolls, which did, I think, 2 wounds. The Beast of Nature, though, because of the way Carl moved, he had not really counted for him, and so I moved him 20 inches, and I had to pivot before I moved, so I'm stuck not aiming at anything this turn. But I just wanted to slow him down. That stupid Iron Beast, he eat me up last game, so I'm going to try to do something to slow him down. The aftermath of the battle in the middle was very predictable, and easily annihilated the Juggers and the Wild Lancers as they moved forth. I was able to turn the 4 Shambler Regiment forward so that they could, it'd be very hard for them to get to anything else there, and that's why I went ahead and left the 4 Shambler Horde aimed toward the left there, because that's where his troops were. As they're backing up, the the Wilt Father and the Air Elementals backed up 1 inch. You could see the damage on the Air Elementals. That was from shooting. I think that the Iron Beast got to them pretty early in the game with some shooting. So, of course, they have it in melee. They haven't even have anybody swing at them yet, so it had to all have been from shooting. So over here, I failed to break the unit of stalwarts, because they are tough to take down, because their armor's a little better than normal. And then the 4 Shamblers also failed to break the unit in front of them. So in response here, Carl charges Calderwalder into the fight with the unit of Hunters of the Wild, and along with the stalwarts, they did, it was ungodly, 16 wounds to them. It was crazy good. And I didn't realize they were that tough. Maybe they aren't. Maybe that was just a good roll. But I was really shocked at how easily my Hunters of the Wild went down with their armor 5. His unit on the hill, the cavalry unit, was actually wavered by the 4 Shamblers, so that's why they're still there. And down here, the EJ Grenadiers go ahead and charge into Kapaka, and at least trying to get him some wounds and stuff on him, trying to take him out. And a question came up, and I didn't even do anything about it, but since he has phalanx and they turn, and you have to face him, back to there, would I have phalanx to get those guys? But I just assumed that in my turn I will turn and have phalanx if I'm alive. Yeah, I knew I was going to get pounded on my left flank. The EJ Grenadiers charged the Air Elementals in the flank, and then the Trolls charged them in the front and easily destroyed them. And like I said, I knew this pounding was about to happen on this flank, but I'm hoping that the Wiltfather being there is going to save me. But, the one thing in regard is I do have my Forest Shambler horde pointed exactly the right direction to be able to extricate myself from this mess. Over on the extreme left of the picture, the spear sprites had turned to face the Beast of Nature, because otherwise I was going to hit him in the flank or hit the Iron Beast. So he had to do it pretty much to do that out. And the trolls went ahead and kind of angled so I wouldn't get a flank on him. But I'm going to catch him with the Tree Man and the Forest Shamblers in a second. That's probably not going to be good for them. And the EJ Grenadiers just went ahead and backed off this turn. Yeah, the Wiltfather and the Forest Shamblers with the Brew of Sharpness are going to slam into the trolls and just blow them off the table. I don't even think they could have possibly made the roll except for a Snake Eyes. Yeah, I did it. I rolled Snake Eyes. There's no way that those trolls could have survived that attack. But you can see that beautiful little blue Snake Eyes there that kept me from just wiping these guys out. Since Carl's EJ Grenadiers failed to destroy the character, they did actually waver him, but he was not dead. And now that allowed the Hydra to flank charge the EJ Grenadiers, which is not going to be good for them. The Forest Shamblers are having a heck of a time destroying that little unit of horsemen, but since Carl had destroyed the leftmost unit of Hunters of the Wild, I went ahead and charged the water elementals in there, and that's Kinsey, the other legendary hero that I used in this game that's up there supporting the fight. And I think he has heal or something cool too. But in the middle, the Forest Shambler regiment is still fighting the unit of Braves. I'm doing like 1 or 2 wounds a turn to them. It's not very good. But on the other hand, I'm holding them up from doing mischief to me. So the Hydra's luck was just as bad as Carl's EJ Grenadiers' luck the turn before, and I only wavered the unit of EJ Grenadiers. And over right on the right, the Forest Shamblers finally killed the Wild Runners unit. There's a unit of Braves over here just out of the picture, and I went ahead and turned the water elementals to be able to engage them in the flank on the following turn. The turn started off with the EJ Grenadiers attacking the Unicorn to try to shut down its magic phase. The Trolls countercharged the Forest Shamblers, and that allows the Iron Beast to go ahead and charge the Wiltfather. And they had a tussle the last game, too. So this is going to be good. Carl had used the Sorcerer's ability and gave the Iron Beast wild charge, so he had just enough range to get into the fight with the Wiltfather. So here's a picture of those TT Combat. They're called Halfling Tree Men, and they make really great Forest Shamblers, and I really enjoy the figures. And I think with Carl's brand new Halflings, this is a good looking picture. The only bad thing in the picture are those 2 clear looking things, and Carl was giving me hell because they were clear, and I said, what color was the last drink of water that you drank? I said, I hope it was clear. So that was just messing with him on that. So anyway, the Halflings were having just as much hard time hurting my Forest Shamblers as I was hurting his humongous unit of Braves. He had done 2 wounds to it, so I wasn't really making any progress on that big unit. But again, it was just to hold them in place until the rest of the team came to rescue. So the Spear Spites would have had to turn around just because otherwise the Beast of Nature would have charged them in the rear. So they really had no choice in the matter. And I believe the archers turned to face them as well, just so I don't go charging into the archers and destroy them either. So every once in a while a game, you get dice that just kind of go pear-shaped. And to me, Snake Eyes is not that pear-shaped. Pear-shaped is doing 1 wound to the tree, to the Wiltfather with the Iron Beast, and doing just 2 wounds to my unit of Forest Shamblers. So that was just a string of pathetic hit and damage rolls in a game, and he really needed to knock out one of those units to have a chance this game, because what happened next is after the unit of Spear Spikes had turned to face the Beast of Nature, the Beast of Nature slammed the Iron Beast in the rear, and of course that's a ton of attacks. So over on the right here, it was really a mopping up operation. The Hunters of the Wild charged and destroyed the howitzer and then turned toward the back of that unit of Braves. And you could see that the Iron Beast and the Trolls both died this game. And then I turned the I turned the Beast of Nature toward the Spear Spites. And of course, they're turned the wrong direction, so they'll have to turn around. So basically, they're not going to move anymore. And we're here in position here. The next turn, I'll be able to put the 4 Shamblers into the flank of the Braves, and that's going to be bad. So we just called it at this point because next turn the 4 Shamblers are going to enter into that fight with the Braves in the middle, and I had a unit of Hunters of the Wild behind the Braves, and another unit of 4 Shamblers, a regiment about to hit them in the flank. So they had no chance, and really the only thing left in the game was a couple of characters and the other 2 units, and they would have inevitably died, I feel, because as soon as they kill these Braves, then I would be able to go into that fight as well. I wouldn't even have had to hurry. I could have backed up, stayed out of their range, and then waited until I had the perfect trap. So we just called the game at this point, and a victory for the forces of nature. Just some thoughts of after the battle. One of the things that happened during this battle was I had, I think, 7 scouting units, which is a lot. And I always try to avoid mixing scouting with non-scouting because they get in each other's way. But what I see I told Carl after the game, I said, you don't need to be on the 12-inch line when somebody's going to jump 12 inches on the first turn before you even move. You don't want to be on the line where they can charge you on the second turn, potentially charge you on the second turn. So in this case, Carl probably should have held back at maybe the 6 or 8-inch line, somewhere through there. And that way they could have maybe got a little bit more shooting in, protected the units better, a little maneuvering, because shambling units are not fast. I mean, that's the one disadvantage of being fast. And the closer you are to them, that gives the shambling units a bigger advantage because of their ability to surge into your flanks and stuff. So staying back in this case would have been the correct strategy, because he got so close to me that he had no choice on some of the things to do, such as when he charged the juggers into me on the first turn. I mean, that should have never happened. And so that's just my advice when you're dealing with scouting armies. Now, if you're playing a scouting army, there's some armies you just don't go running into. They will absolutely slaughter you. I mean, Trident Realm, all melee army that's really hard to hit, and everything in the army hits on 4s just about. That is dumb to go running into those guys. You're better off just staying back and setting traps for them than you are to just run forward and get slaughtered in 1 or 2 turns. So it's really a challenging thing to deal with these scouting armies, because I think I lost like 7 games in a row to my friend Craig's Sylvankin. I just couldn't figure out how to do it, And finally, I just came down with taking all armor 6 with my dwarves and said, "Okay, fine, charge me. I don't care," and just have some other tools in there, to take advantage of when I stopped them. And then I could, flank with a dwarf on large beast or something like that, and take them out. But it is a learning curve playing against the scouting army. And next week, if Carl's playing Halflings, I won't play a scouting army. I'll play something more orthodox, as they say, so that the battle is a little bit better as far as being able everything not being so close initially, and really no room to maneuver for him. And I didn't care about maneuvering, so I just need to go straight ahead and kill what's in front of me. But anyway, it's just this idea of that you have to be very careful when you're confronting these type of armies. And I have to say that I'm not super impressed with the Halflings, but I think it's more because of the limitations that Carl has in models right now, not because of the army itself. I'm sure there's good armies, but to me, it feels almost like playing against goblins, except not good goblins are good. Halflings are quasi-good. So, excuse me. And so I think it has to do with model limitations as much as anything else. But in the Epic Quest, to be fair, I'm restricted to model limitation too. It's just there's some armies I have a ton of models for, so I'm not really restricted. And Forces of Nature, I've got a pretty decent amount of stuff that I can pull from my other armies too, such as more generals on winged beast and stuff like that. Use my general winged beast. I could pluck the rider off the back, and now I have another beast of nature. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I can pull away from other armies and complete this army out, because I mean, I didn't have all my models on the table, but it's just like I said, there's limitations in the Epic Quest, because I don't want to play with models that aren't painted if I can help it. I mean, there's some that I keep staring at that they won't talk to me and tell me to paint them, and so those, and I try to substitute something else for them, so that I would rather have a painted model on the table. But unpainted models don't offend me in any way. I just tease the other people about them. But and my problem is I have so many painted models, but not based models. So it's kind of one of those glass house situations. So anyway, I enjoyed the game. Carl really had my number on my left flank there. I just wish he could have had a way to exploit it a little bit better, and he would have really got me, because, like I said, I intentionally left that flank that way, because that way I could push all of those scouting units right into his face very early in the game. So that's kind of what happened. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll work on Epic Quest game number 10. And I don't know yet which army I want to use, because I was getting in the mood to do Northern Alliance, and then it starts to come back to Ratkin. But I want to play, if I'm going to play a strong army like a Night Stalkers or something like that, I don't want to play with one of these armies that I don't play very much. I mean, I would rather use Ratkin or something that I play all the time against one of these armies, because I know it's not about winning the Epic Quest, but it's also, to me, it's not about getting slaughtered to the man. So anyway, well, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.